Hello, good afternoon. I'm John Adams, the NEFD approved tutor, and I'm in touch with you today regarding units 13 and 14 of the DIP FAA. This is the first time that I've used a video for presenting units. I pride myself on interaction with students, so this isn't my preference for teaching, but unfortunately, due to what's going on at the moment, I think this is probably a sensible way of continuing the course and allowing you to continue with your coursework as well. So when this lockdown is lifted, we can just go straight on into the exams, then the oral exams and written exams. So we're going to cover Unit 13, that's Module 4, the last one of Module 4, and Module 5, Unit 14. So there's only one unit in Module 5, and then following that piece of that unit, I will then present you on the email attached with this video will be the coursework for Module 5. And again, there'll be another video explaining how to complete Module 5 coursework, the ILR and the reflective log in the usual way. Fortunately, Module 5 is quite straightforward. It's to do with your company practices regarding administration, prepaid funerals, regulations, how you do quoting, invoices. So it covers your daily procedures, the day-to-day diary, for example, that's covered as well. So we'll go through that and get it all sorted for you, the final 2 units. So the first, I'll go through the slides in the usual way. You won't see those. I'll sort of ask the question and then for you to think about it. Obviously that interaction won't be there, which is frustrating, but have a little think about it, and then I'll go for the answers as well and go through different theories based on different sizes of different companies. So from a small company, from a very small funeral firm with just 1 or 2 people there, through to the larger companies as well. So this is Module 4, Unit 13, Office Practice and Administration within the funeral service. So the first slide on my screen here is the arrangement form, what should be on it. So there are arrangement forms which are very detailed, which cover all possible scenarios, and there are some arrangement forms which are very, very basic, just that essential information. The question is what is classed as essential information on the arrangement form? As things move forward now, with regulation coming in, things we often see missing on an arrangement form, which even for ourselves we don't have on an arrangement form, is disabilities. So are there any members of the family who have a disability? That could be wheelchairs, hearing, visual, or mental health issues. So it's quite useful to note that point if there is somebody with mental health issues. Also as well, from a point of wheelchair practicalities, how are you going to get that wheelchair from the house, if you are going to the home first, to the crematorium or church? Just again, different companies have different policies. I'm not sure what your policy is regarding will you allow a wheelchair in a limousine. Some companies will say, well, why would it be a problem? I think the biggest issue is space, potentially insurance. But yeah, have a think about that, about what your policies are. And in the exam again, the oral exam is mentioning about disabilities. It's a critical area and something that's often forgotten. So that's one aspect of the arrangement form, which is not usually on there. Other areas then, so we break it down into sections really. You have personal details of the deceased. So here the deceased was, their address, date of birth, their age, where they passed away at, and their legal address as well. Their occupation. That covers it for the actual deceased details. The next section will be then is the next of kin, or the applicant, the person you're arranging the funeral with. So their full name, their address, telephone numbers, email addresses, all contact details. Some firms ask for occupation of the applicants, which does make you wonder why they want that. But again, companies have different policies and that's fine. So deceased details, next of kin details, and then we've got funeral service details. So we've got location, where we're having the funeral service at, for the service and interment, so cremation or burial. We've also got as well dates and times, the type of service, so religious, non-religious, a civil funeral, and who that celebrant will be as well. Stuff to do with the actual service itself, so music, entrance, exit, during, any hymns, any order of service booklets, how many order of service booklets do they want, and again, email addresses there for sending proofs to potentially, so they can see a copy of the order of service before it goes to print. After the funeral service details, we have logistics, so discussing how we're going to get from A to B to C to D, and then back to A again potentially. So discussing that with the family as well. So having a clear points on your arrangement form for that. Next on the arrangement form will be other details, so such as bearers, notices to the newspapers, donations, flowers, again viewing as well, which might have its own section for it, viewing, embalming, to chapel arrest, your procedures on that. That gives you opportunity to actually discuss that as well. Clothing as well, type of coffin, and you've also got on there a section as well potentially for writing the notice to the newspaper as well. So remember, in the exam you will have to write a notice for the newspaper. So I've already sent you some links, some examples of that as well. So if you're not doing it on a regular basis, have a look at that, try and understand the format of that notice, and as we discussed in previous sessions, what is the purpose of that notice. So keep working on that as well. So that is the arrangement form then, and that is the details that should be on it. Some people incorporate the 14-day calling off contract into that. Some people include the GDPR policies as well, so how you hold their information. Again, it all depends on what you call your arrangement form. As I say, some forms are more basic than others. For the exam, my advice to you would be is to have as many questions on there, as much detail as possible, to use them as prompts. So as I mentioned before, on our arrangement form, we don't have disabilities mentioned on there. For the exam, I simply added disabilities, ? I put a tick box next to disabilities. And for me, that was my prompt during the arrangements with the examiner, with the next of kin, to make sure I did not miss that question. So that's a very basic way of doing it. If you wanted to go to another level of actually creating an arrangement form for the exam, again, you can do that as well. The examiner will not penalise you because you're not using your company's arrangement form. The reality is, as long as you cover the criteria, you cannot get down. You can't get marked down. I have had a student recently though that was planning to use his iPad for the arrangement. Everything is on the iPad now. You sign on the iPad. He's been told that wasn't allowed. But that's something at the moment that I'm speaking to the NEFD about, because my view is, as long as he's covering all the criteria, why is he getting marked down? But anyway, that's another story for another day. So the next question then on my PowerPoint here is the price list and what should be on a price list. So this is now not your quotation or estimate. This is about what do you present families with, potentially in your funeral home, on your website, if you do have prices online. How far do you go with it is the question. So professional fees, cost of a coffin, a range of coffins. How many coffins do you have on that range? Excuse me. So a range of coffins. You'll have as well potentially embalming costs. So we discussed before about where that embalming cost can sit. Some people include it in their professional fees. Some people have it as an itemised figure. For the exam, the examiners will want to see the embalming costs as an additional fee, as a separate entity on your estimate. Newspaper notices are difficult because obviously different newspapers charge different fees. So you can give them a rough figure in the exam or leave that cost off the estimate at that stage. Other costs to include. So again, third parties, will you include third party fees on that price list as well in your funeral homes? The question with that is, how far do you go? With the CMA, the Competition Market Authority, who carry out the investigation into funerals, they want to see all costs associated and affiliated with funerals. Well, where do you draw the line with it? That's the issue. I've had thoughts before. It might be a good idea on websites to have an estimate creator where you put in the types of funeral you want, and then that will generate an actual figure for you, including third-party fees. Because the issue of having the problem of having all those third-party fees listed, the CMA wants it there for clarity. I think having over 400 or 500 fees for double burial fee at one cemetery into another cemetery, you could actually create a minefield. So I understand what the CMA is saying, wanting clarity, but there's potential it cause more headaches for families and more distress, which is what we don't want. So price list then. So disbursements, obviously third-party fees. Then our fees, we have professional fees, cost of the coffin. We have a hearse cost. We have a limousine cost. Some companies will give you a discounted rate if you have more limousines. Again, it's all down to your company and how you work. And embalming costs as well. So those are the fees you'll usually see on your price list. You might also have a cost of a 4x4 hearse or a Land Rover hearse. Again, it all depends on how detailed you want to go with your price list. So moving forward then, the estimate confirmation form. So this is quite an interesting section now. So all NAFD members should be providing families or applicants with a full written estimate, as I just stated, the funeral director's fees and third-party fees, clearly itemised so they can see what figure accounts for what item, so it's all clear for them. The confirmation form, that varies as well across the industry. So for ourselves here, my dad, he spent years tailoring our funeral confirmation form, and it's 5 or 6 pages long of details, and we will even go to the level of discussing the routes that the hearse will take. So again, everything is covered. We cover things, we put in our confirmation letter things that aren't going to be done as well, which some people disagree with. From our point of view, it's covered. Some funeral firms will have a card that big with date of the funeral, who the celebrant will be, cortege, leave from where, go to where, and date and time of the funeral. And it can be as simple as that. Obviously, it all depends again on the size of your company and what your structure is, what your systems are that you use. IT now is getting more, there's more tech involved. So a lot of the work can be done for companies now using technology, which is really useful and efficient. And again, we'll come on to that shortly about the benefits of keeping your records as well. So, but yeah, to confirm that the estimate should be received by the family prior to the funeral service taking place. That's key. That's a key point there. Them having the information, families having the information before they come to arrange a funeral is useful. It allows them to make more of a clear decision about which funeral firm they want to use if it is based on costs. But yeah, they must have those fees, but must have a clear indication of costings prior to a funeral service taking place. Lots of funeral firms will provide the estimate and present the estimate on completion of the arrangements. Whilst they were there making the arrangements, they'll do it from there and then. Again, in your exam, that's what you're required to do. A good point as well to also remembered is you always use a calculator. People have lost lots of marks before for calculating incorrectly. So very simply, just take a calculator. So regarding the exam, yeah, so just you'll have to do it there and then. So many funeral firms, they will still take the estimates back to their funeral firm, back after the arrangement, and do the estimate there and then afterwards, just so that's clear. And that's not a problem either. Obviously, the sooner they have the information, the more informed they are, and the clearer it is, the more clearer service it is for the family. Moving forward then, so donations then. In your syllabus, there is a section on donations, about how you handle donations, how you manage donations. It's important. I think the key thing is having a policy in place is the key thing, not just to sort of wing it, because a mistake with donations, it can be a critical area for a business or for a person or an individual. So from our point of view, how we handle donations, I don't think we could tighten up any more unless we just stop doing donations, which some companies are doing now. That is the only way to stop yourself from having any potential problems, is to either stop doing them, or what we do at the end of the funeral service, crematoriums or churches where we have access to the boxes. That's where the church wardens don't take the box themselves. They're going to count it within the church. We empty the box with the family there and then into an envelope, hand over that envelope to the family, and then they take responsibility for it. They count it in their own time. They bring it back into us a few days later when they're ready. We give them a full written receipt for that amount. We count it in front of them again, and that way they've had responsibility. There's always a danger, as I say, that they will come back and say, well, we thought there was, we walked past the box and there seemed to be a lot more cash in there than what we've got here, than what you've counted for. So there's a danger of that. So I think companies do need to protect themselves. It does seem to be, I think, an area, a weak area within the industry, where it's based on trust, which is wonderful. The fact that we are trusted so much, and as I say, with previous sessions about the whole history of funeral directing, it's based on trust. A lot of this is, but again, as we move forward and times change, social media now, the dangers of that, we need to be tighter, and having policies in place protect you. And again, all that trust and the fact there is so much history. If something was to go wrong, to a big degree, a big error, I'd imagine that funeral firms that do rely on trust would take it very personally if there was accusations against them. So that's something to consider. When things are going good, there's no need to do anything at all. It's when things go wrong you start to make these changes. So again, just be aware of your procedures for the exams, and be prepared to discuss that. You're going to need to talk about the donations in the exam. So the next slide here is then know how to plan and coordinate resources in order to meet clients' requests. So this is regarding the day-to-day diary, instructions to internal departments. So again, this is a big one based on the size of your company. You might be a huge company and still have a paper diary within a branch if it's based on that mentality. The issue is, the bigger you are, the more important communication is. The smaller you are, the more you can get away with regarding communication, because there's less of you to talk. There's less of you to actually communicate with. So it all depends on this, again, the size of your structure. For ourselves here, we're a small to medium firm, and we have a paper diary still. We do have a large TV screen now monitor with all our funerals on, which helps with communication. And we have a group messenger which all messages over the telephone come through on that, so we all receive it. So communication, I hope, is quite tight here. I'm sure some might differ. But yeah, have a think about that, how you communicate your day-to-day diary. Can there be any improvements at all? If there can be any improvements, please feel free to email me. I'll be quite interested to hear how you deal with that and what you do. And are there any things within the industry we could actually improve on? So yeah, moving forward then. So day-to-day diary is quite straightforward, really. Arrangement, making appointments. Obviously, the people that are doing the appointments need to know about the appointments. It's all very basic stuff. The next point here, know how to raise a final invoice. Obviously, different companies do different things again. Sorry to keep saying this, but there's a massive difference in this. Some funeral firms now are requesting the full payment prior to the funeral service taking place. Due to this COVID-19 situation now, more and more independents I'm aware of are requesting that as well, which is quite interesting. I wonder if a lot of these policies and procedures will be in place after COVID-19 is finished and gone, which hopefully it will be soon. So yeah, these things come. These things come along to us, affect the whole industry. It'd be quite interesting to see what stays after this as well. But I think COVID-19, again, that'd be quite a good discussion for another day. Excuse me. Service sheets, again, that's an administration point there. Some funeral firms will still send out their service sheets to a third party to do for them, all the design work, all the actual information to go in that service sheets. Many funeral firms, including ours, that's a critical part of our business, really, because not from a business point of view, but from a funeral service point of view, ensuring that all the music's correct, the hymns are correct, the right verses, the right order, having that correct for the conductor going on the funeral service, knowing it's all been discussed with the family, it's completely tight and correct. I'm sure there's companies that do outsource it, the whole lot, and then suddenly hand over that responsibility to somebody else. I'm sure there's benefits of that, but personally, I think it's a major strength of the service, really, seeing as having that in-house. Obviously, the design work and how it's presented, that can be seen as different. Obviously, I know the larger corporates will have teams to do that, and third parties to make it all look very pretty, which is great. And obviously, back to personalisation of order of service booklets, how important that is. Chris mentioned in Peter's course recently, he went to the trouble of finding the deceased's old van, his old truck, using Google Maps, which was a genius idea. Using that, he superimposed it with the family's permission, and then actually put that into the service booklet. The reason he did that was the fact there was no, they'd sold the van, it was his life, it was his hobby, but they had no pictures of it, but he went to the trouble of doing that. So again, it's about what can we do to personalise the order of service booklets, having people who've got expertise in that, which is great. The smarter it looks, obviously, the better it looks for your service, your business, more efficient you are as well. So yeah, again, different sizes, different procedures. So where are we now? Records, the final one here then. What is the purpose of record keeping? So obviously GDPR now, we need to be aware of that, how long you keep information for. The critical point is what do you need to keep information for? So the ICO, the people that overlook GDPR, if they challenge you, they say, well, why do you have records of Mrs. Smith from 20 years ago? Is it a valid reason for us to say, well, actually, we keep it because Mr. Smith's still alive and we might need it one day? I would argue to say, yes, that is a valid reason to keep it. And that's why we keep it. Because, again, it's making our services better for the future. And it's helping families because there might be children or grandchildren saying, I want the same as granny or same as granddad. It's there. It's there in a file. We're not saying the same coffin. The coffin choices are, the hymns, it's all there. It's all clear on paper or now on computers. There are companies now which you pay a small fee and they will transfer all paper copies onto the computer for you, and obviously you can keep it in a more store, so they say, location rather than in a file in a back room. My view is, as long as they are in a back room and it's just got a key on the door, that is a safe compartment. You could actually call it a safe as well. So bear that in mind. I think just being aware of how you hold information, having records is critical. And data now, from a theft point of view, they're saying that data now will be one of the biggest assets, one of the highest values going really for theft. So as companies and individuals, we need to be tighter and be more careful about how we hold our own information and how we hold especially other people's information, and at the time of arranging a funeral even more so. So just bear that in mind, how you hold it, who you share it with as well. But again, that's GDPR, that's not really for today really. The purpose of record keeping, the bottom line is, it provides a better service for the future when we're arranging funerals for people's loved ones from previous. That's the end of that. So that brings an end. Obviously this is quite short because we haven't had that interaction. That brings an end to Module 4, Unit 13, and that's Office Practice and Administration within the Funeral Service. That's the last unit of Module 4. We'll go on now to Module 5, Unit 14, and yeah, apologies again. We're doing this via video. It's not my preference. I'm not enjoying this as much as being in a classroom with you, having discussions and debates. I do enjoy a good debate, but again, hopefully we'll have those again soon. And so I think it might be really useful doing something. I'm not sure if it'd be like a video or when we next see each other on COVID-19, discussing about what we've done, what's happened so far, where we're going, and how it will change afterwards. Might be really interesting to do that. But yeah, that's Module 4, Unit 13 complete. Thanks so much, and we'll do the next unit now.